From living a poverty-stricken life growing up to getting arrested multiple times and having to struggle to obtain even the most basic necessities, here's how these athletes still manage to make it big. Let's kick things off with Evander Holyfield's escape from the streets. Tagged by his fans as the real deal, many consider him to be the best cruiserweight in history. But that's not the only division he excelled in, knocking out the Carlos de Leon, the man who made history by becoming the first cruiserweight to win the world title twice. He stole that label to become boxing's first undisputed cruiserweight champion, and he didn't stop there either. It wasn't long before he beat the top names in boxing's biggest division, where the riches really lay, the heavyweight category. Just 6 fights in as a heavyweight boxer, he became the world's undisputed champion in 1990. Back in the 1990s, Holyfield was one of the highest-earning sportsmen in the world.
That stung Evander Holyfield. He's got him going. Holyfield is almost down. He's hanging on the rope.
Evander boxed.
And recognition followed him wherever he went. But it wasn't always that way. His childhood shaped and scraped him into the man that he is. The real deal was born into a big family with 8 siblings. When Holyfield was just 4 years old, his family moved from Alabama to a housing project area in Atlanta, Georgia, a place that was known for the crime that ran rampant in its streets. With that sort of exposure from a very young age, and the notorious neighborhood making it difficult to survive, the star struggled with a lot of hardship for most of his childhood. He joined a boxing group at the age of 7, and after that, it all went uphill as he started showing off some major skills in the sport. Competing in the Junior Olympics at 13, Holyfield started bagging medal after medal and rose up to become a legend in the world of boxing. Holyfield has set his name in stone as one of the sport's most respectable and accomplished boxers. Speaking of accomplished boxers, I should really talk about Mike Tyson. Love or hate the sport, Mike Tyson is impossible to ignore.
And I never thought anything else about it. I was just a mama's boy. And that's,
me too. I was raised single mother in Brooklyn. I was fine. I didn't feel anything.
Nicknamed the baddest man on the planet, the star has done some pretty wild things, one of them having gnawed off a piece of Holyfield's ear during a heated bout. Yes, he literally chomped it off. Before becoming a household name in the world of boxing, the former champion faced a couple of rough years as he grew up. He was just 2 when his father decided to take his leave, leaving the family to fend for themselves.
And that was it?
Yeah.
You didn't want to ask him any questions?
No, I did get to know him later and start asking him questions and stuff. Not questions I really wanted to know and answer.
His mother had to take on the responsibility of raising 2 sons and a daughter on her own shoulders and died when Tyson was just 16. So did his sister at the young age of 24. The suffering that came with their deaths scarred Tyson for life and left a permanent mark on his personality. His surroundings didn't make it easy to survive either. He grew up in a high-crime neighborhood where life-threatening fights were an everyday thing. Constantly having to fear for his life, he was thrust into the art of fighting at a very early age. With violence being so common, Mike had been arrested 38 times by the time he turned 13, even though with his quality of life, self-defense skills were more of a necessity rather than an option. They made up for a huge aspect of his career in the future, shaping him into the icon that he is now. His underlying boxing talent shone through in street fights too, leading to him getting scouted by the former boxer Bobby Stewart, who introduced him to Cus D'Amato, the man who launched Tyson to greatness and became his legal guardian.
What he did would require help, patience, and perhaps understanding, because I tried to make him feel, and I hope I did.
His success only grew from there on, with his peekaboo-style handing crushing defeats to many big fighters. But Iron Mike isn't the only one who had to suffer in a corrupt neighborhood. Allen Iverson has a similar story. You know what really emphasizes the impact these athletes left on their respective sports? Their cool nicknames. Iverson, or The Answer, is recognized as one of the greatest NBA players of all time. His numbers speak for themselves. Starting off strong as the 1996 Rookie of the Year, he's an 11-time NBA All-Star, 4-time NBA scoring champion, and the 2001 NBA MVP.
We won the Nationals, 17 years old. Damn, I'm still waiting on the shoes that you promised us.
which was one of the greatest seasons in NBA history. That's just his awards. His stats are mind-blowing. But while his career speaks for itself, he had to earn this level of respect and recognition. He lived with his two half-sisters and his mother in a penniless district of Hampton. Oftentimes, the bills were left unpaid, and the family had to go without the basics of life. Water, electricity, and heat were a luxury for them. Iverson dreamed of turning things around for his family, but it isn't easy when you're surrounded by a destitute environment. During his early years, he also lived through the murder of 8 of his friends, including his best friend. That's trauma that follows you for life.
Half of the NBA started to wear cornrows because of Iverson.
Despite his circumstances constantly holding him back, Iverson managed to keep it together just enough to participate in sports. Encouraged by his mother to try his hand at basketball, it soon replaced his passion for football.
Football was like my favorite sport. I remember the first time my mom wanted me to play basketball. I came home from school. She told me I was going to basketball practice, and I cried all the way out the door. I said I didn't want to play.
Giving him hope that the sport would be his ticket out of the slums. Coming from an environment devoid of life and full of illegal activities, he was reminded that his dreams had a low chance of ever becoming a reality. But Iverson had a plan to carry out, and eventually he rose up to become one of the nation's best recruits. His past didn't leave him far behind though, as some of his antics shone a light on his rough beginnings. But be his biggest fan or his worst hater, no one can deny Iverson's impact on the NBA. He shares his stricken expectation for basketball as his way out with Scottie Pippen. Pippen was the youngest of a dozen children to a paper mill factory worker. Much like the others, his childhood home was humble and small, if I can even call it that. It was a 2-room house for 14 people, and the town he lived in wasn't very populated. One thing which did work in his favor though was his height. He grew up to become the tallest member of his family, and was involved in the sport from very early on with his siblings. But tragedy struck the family when Scottie was in his freshman year. His father, the main breadwinner, was rendered helpless in a wheelchair for the rest of his life due to a stroke. The family had already been in a financial pit even before the incident and couldn't afford to send any of their children to university. Pippen's only shot at college was through an athletic scholarship, and holding on to it as the last straw, he threw himself into sports. He joined his high school team as a freshman and quickly rose up the ranks.
Scottie on the drive, beats Vinny Johnson with a behind-the-back move. Left corner Jordan, Michael fires, rimming, no!
Becoming the best player on the team in his sophomore year, averaging 18.5 points and 9.2 rebounds per game, and that too when he was just starting off. His numbers, as well as his height, only grew his next 2 years to a staggering 6'8" frame. That was just the beginning, as he was quickly snatched up by the Chicago Bulls through an elaborate plan while entering the 1987 NBA draft.
Central Arkansas, he's 21 years old, and that's right folks, you probably have never heard of Scottie Pippen, but believe me, the NBA scouts heard about him, and Bill Russell was talking to people.
Quickly blossoming into a household name, he was teamed with Michael Jordan, Horace Grant, and other legendary players, leading the Bulls to 6 NBA championships, and was one of the top 50 players to ever play in the NBA back in 1996. That's all about athletes who narrowly overcame homelessness.